Hello everyone, welcome back to The Media Couple. I'm Rory.
And I'm Sophie.
Where we break down the latest in film, TV and entertainment from an insider's perspective.
Yes, so today, have you ever wondered why your social feeds feel so targeted, shall we say? Basically, today we are looking into manipulative algorithms because they actually have a history rooted in media, rooted in TV, stretching back to, well, way before your grandma was watching TV. So we're going to dive into how media learned to be mean and how it's actually gotten more cruel and what it means for media going forward. We're also going to have a Rotten Tomatoes game at the very end, so stick around for that. This one is themed about mean films, mean media, kind of. Mm-hmm. So yeah, stick around for that. Anyways, Rory, do you want to kick us off with the top of the episode?
Absolutely. I think we're all aware that exploitation for views isn't new.
No.
TV has been doing that for years, long before the internet was ever a thing. I think back to shows that were all about sort of humiliation, a show like Fat Families, if you remember that one.
Yes.
That show focused on the idea of body shaming overweight individuals to the point where they were pushed into a diet, and it was sort of almost like just a shameful, utterly shameful experience for them. It was like, you're severely overweight. What are you doing? Gorging yourself on food. Yeah. You need help. And, clearly you need to lose a lot of weight. It was all about this sort of pressurized environment of forcing someone to lose weight and forcing them to look in the mirror. And I think back to a show like that, and, for a period of time, people loved it.
Yeah.
People love to watch that type of content, that humiliating factor and people overeating, which, clearly is something that they were struggling with, but we loved it.
Yeah. I mean, there was lots of shows like that. I mean, British television from memory, there was, Snog, Marry, Avoid.
Yeah,
if you remember that one.
Yeah.
There was loads of makeover shows. Fat Families, I think, was particularly bad. It was probably one of the worst, I'd say.
I think just in terms of the language that was used against the individuals who were in the show, I think.
And the jokes, and they would make really cruel jokes about people.
Yeah.
It was almost like, oh, look at these. They weren't people, the people who were on the show as contestants.
They definitely weren't treated as that.
No, they were seen as something lower than that. Almost
absolutely.
like, oh, we're here to laugh at all of you. It's humiliation content at its
finest, I think.
Shall we say. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't just that. I mean, I remember there was a show that I remember watching in my history class when I was maybe 12, which is a bit weird, called Kid Nation.
Oh, Kid Nation.
Yeah, so this was basically Lord of the Flies.
Yes.
It was pretty much Lord of the Flies.
Wasn't that like the premise of it? Like take a load of kids and put them in the middle of a desert in like America.
In America, and have them run a town and see basically how they survive and who becomes a leader, and they have these challenges and they all have to, then people go out and so on. I mean, it was horrible. It basically, there was this kid, I remember, who was maybe 8 or something, and he was crying. And I mean, kids crying on screen.
Yeah.
That happened all the time.
I seem to remember that scene with the 8-year-old kid where he was like, I'm only 8, I'm in the 3rd grade or whatever. Like I'm
too young for this.
I'm too young for this. I feel
he
like
literally said on screen, "I'm too young for this,"
which is
and they aired
appalling.
That.
Yeah.
They aired that. But I mean, that show was another one. Or you also had the dance Dance Mums. Yeah, exactly. Which I mean, all those girls.
It very much normalized adults screaming at children.
Yeah, I mean that was one form of it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, look, there were loving moments of that show where
Super Nanny.
Exactly right. And it was like this like voyeuristic thing into people's lives where it was like, we want to see how bad their lives are.
Yeah. And I mean, the kids content specifically was about, I think nowadays there's no way you'd be able to put a child on screen who's crying. I mean, ethically.
And I think as well,
you're exploiting a child.
Yeah. And I think as well, in terms of that like ultra pressurized environment, right? And as well, it's like, it's the kids are not consenting to this. Like
the parents are, because the kids can't consent.
They can't, they're too young, and like their parents want them on screen, they're going to go on screen. But then that leads into a whole other ethical debate, which is like, what, I know you're their parent, but ultimately you don't know how you're going to affect them when they become an adult.
Yeah, and for example, you can look at shows like X Factor, right, which basically started with loads of auditions, and the producers would put in half the people who were really good and half the people who were really bad, and it was kind of a mixed bag of which you were going to get.
There was moments as well that was sort of scripted, almost like scripted reality in X Factor, where it was like they told them to go out and sing a specific song.
Yeah.
They start singing that song, and then the judges are like, "Why are you singing that song?" And then I can't remember her name, but it's the girl who did the pink. Yeah, and she was like, "But you just told Zoe." I think it was Zoe.
Yes,
yeah, and she was like, "But you told me to sing the song." And later we find out, like years later, that the producers completely manipulated that situation, created.
This kind of content hasn't gone away. This content has actually just moved online.
Yeah.
And when you actually look at it, when you look at the content that we're seeing out there today, you can literally draw direct parallels between the shows that we've just mentioned and what we're seeing online. For example, what we're seeing online, Kid Nation directly translates to prank parenting or viral challenges like the Tide Pod challenge.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Where kids are basically, these trends are created for kids to basically, either get them to do something dangerous or humiliate themselves or cry. And those clips go viral because obviously it harks back to exactly the kind of content that we liked in the 2000s and not exactly the kind of content that we liked prior to that, because this actually isn't a media problem. This is a human problem that we've got, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you've got Fat Families, which now directly relates to content like what I eat in a day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the what I eat in a day stuff is like really interesting. People are obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Seeing what people eat in a day. And ultimately, the more people eat in a day, the more people get like likes and comments. But a lot of the time it's negative comments.
Yeah, because you look in the comments of, you look in the comments of people who do these kinds of what I eat in a day videos, and they're always really mean,
really
harsh,
nasty.
And obviously the algorithm, rewards content and that has engagement, whether it be likes, comments, shares.
Yeah.
And
so whether it be negative or positive, really.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's whether it's being engaged with one way or the other. It doesn't matter whether it's humiliating, hurtful. And you could argue, but the creators are in control. And no creator is posting online hoping they're going to get hate comments.
Of course not, no.
That's absolutely, ridiculous to assume that.
Yeah.
So nobody goes out automatically looking to be humiliated. That's definitely not the norm. But you've got X Factor, for example, where, that directly relates to fail clips, those compilations or even those kinds of videos that people do where they take, videos of people in public and humiliate them by being like, oh, you can't wear, I don't know, a hat on the tube.
Yeah.
And, they're filming somebody, walking down the tube and they're going, oh gosh, am I wearing a hat? Oh, I'll take it off. And then they laugh at them, humiliating them in public, essentially.
Yeah, it's public embarrassment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And all those kinds of clips all literally stem back to exactly the kind of content that these TV shows are now no longer allowed to make. Yeah,
they've just evolved into a more digital friendly version. Not when I say friendly, I mean friendly in terms of moving it into the digital space, not the content. The content hasn't gotten friendlier.
No, it's the same themes.
It's just they've molded it into something different. I remember a few podcasts ago, it's like when we talked about, can I come inside your house? Can I see inside your house? And that was like Cribs.
Yeah.
2000 shows have evolved into what we're seeing right now.
But here's my question, right? Why were we not okay with having these kinds of shows on TV in the first place? But now we are okay with these kinds of shows being online and this kind of content being online. We stopped these shows from happening because we saw the result of how it affected people, how it made people have immense mental health struggles, feel, have far wide-reaching impact. We condemned the producers who made it. We stopped the shows.
Yeah.
People talk about the Jerry Springer show and the Jeremy Kyle show, and talk about those and, oh my gosh, how could that content ever be allowed to go online? Go on TV. We are now recreating exactly that kind of content on YouTube.
Yeah. Do you know what's the difficult thing, which I think you said something there, like the onus is on the creators of these channels, right? They sort of, I think majority of them are aware of the negativity that social media can bring to a channel. But back in the 2000s, if you appeared on a show, you'd maybe have like your local community talk to you about it. You'd probably get some press, but then eventually it would go away. Right. Whereas now it never goes. And it's like you can be constantly reminded. People can then take clips of your videos and then talk about you overindulging or doing whatever you're doing in that video. Right. Like, and people do it. And there's, troll accounts just based around this content.
Well, I think that's the thing that makes it, we condemned broadcast media from, doing this kind of stuff for good. And I'm glad we did,
Definitely,
and
for good
it's
reason,
a good reason that we did do that. But we condemned it, we stopped it because ethically it was wrong. And I would argue that broadcast media was less, exploitative than online media, because you think about the reach that broadcast media had. Yes, admittedly, in the UK, the reach that, the likes of the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, and those channels back in the 2000s had was high.
Yeah.
But somebody in Australia wasn't necessarily watching that show unless it was sold to that territory.
Yeah, like they weren't going to watch Fat Families, for example.
No. Whereas now the content that's posted online and created online can be viewed globally by a global audience, and the scale and speed at which it can reach a global audience is hugely different to what it was. It's arguably more dangerous today than it ever was to exploit people, vulnerable people.
And as well, to continue exploiting people 20 years later. The reason people still talk about shows like this is because younger audiences who are, TikTok native and YouTube native are seeing clips from these shows and being like, what's this? Look at this nostalgia. How often do you see people on TikTok be like, oh, I remember this show from when I was a kid? Or like, do you know what I mean? And like, we're talking about it right now.
All you have to do is go on TikTok and type in Kid Nation.
Yeah, or Fat Families, and
you will
all be
find
there.
Exactly. You will find that content that is not allowed to be shown online on
broadcasters.
Well, it is allowed,
yeah,
that's the point. On broadcasters, but it is allowed to be shown online. And this is where the question becomes. So first of all, you have all this legacy content that's being posted online, which we're not allowing on our TV, boxes, because we need to, protect young people.
Yeah, it's too damaging for TV.
Exactly. But where are young people going? They're going directly online. So they're seeing it all anyways.
Yeah.
And then the question becomes, okay, so who is actually responsible for this? The people is it the creators who make this kind of content? Is it the producers who made the legacy content who aren't stopping it from going online or doing takedowns of that kind of content? Is it the regulator? Is it the government?
Is it Ofcom?
Or is it, is it the platforms, or is it us? Ultimately.
Yeah. I mean, to answer your question, I think it is us. I think you look at historically at what human beings have sort of done to each other. We've always liked public displays of like pain or humiliation or, embarrassment. Like we've always liked watching that type of thing as human beings. You think of gladiators. You think of when people were put in the stocks or whatever, the gallows, and like, walk through the street publicly, humiliated people, threw apples and food at you.
I think about that scene in Game of Thrones of shame.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's based in fact,
people love it.
Of course. Yeah. It was like a show. It was like you went to go watch it in those times,
Yeah. But I think it's sort of storytelling thrives on drama, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Ultimately.
Yeah.
So, from historically, the way we would tell stories would be, telling it, and the way that they'd be passed on is, oh my goodness, the most insane story is the one that sticks in your brain, which is the one that's told on. So, that this idea of the more sensational it is and the more incredible things happen, the more people are going to talk about it, which is why tabloid and gossip and all of that
all exist. Yeah.
But I think that the problem is it gets to a point where, at this moment in time, we're living through a moment where all the sensational content is online, and the algorithm rewards more intense, more extreme content.
Yeah, it does.
Right?
It almost rewards negative and bad behavior.
Yeah, in the same way that on TV in the early 2000s, they were being rewarded with ratings. People would tune in to the stuff that was outlandish. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's literally what happened with the Jerry Springer Show.
Yeah.
They did a whole documentary about that. Do you remember we watched that?
Yeah.
And it was all about basically how they leaned into the extreme because that's what spiked their ratings.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's the thing, like online platforms have their safety guidelines and stuff like that. But, it all depends on the people who are setting those policies, right? Like, you know, your Mark Zuckerbergs who, you know, this year, I think he said, like, we want to pull back a little bit from that. You know, we want to allow more free speech on our platforms.
But is it free speech or is it just harmful?
Yeah.
I wouldn't argue it's necessary. Being mean about a group of people and really mean and humiliating them and doing everything you can, but essentially dragging them through the streets and shouting shame.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, is that free speech? I don't know. I think that's just mean.
I just think it's interesting that
unnecessary.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, I just think it's interesting that it took probably over 20 years, probably took us about 50 years to get to a point where we were like, this behavior is not really okay to display on television anymore.
Yes.
How long is it going to take us to get to a point where we see that online?
Exactly.
Could it be another 20 years, 30 years? Are we going to look back at this period right now and go, oh God, you know, it wasn't great either then.
Well, yeah,
we were still doing it.
Exactly. You look back on TV shows in the early 2000s, you go, how was that ever allowed to be on air? You know, you look at it now with the historical lens and you go, that's just
it's
insane.
shocking, isn't it? Yeah.
It's so shocking.
Yeah. But like what you started the pod with, you know, like you sat and watched it in a class. Your teachers were like, here you go, Sophie, you were a little girl. And they're like, go on, watch this.
And they were like, yeah, here's child abuse, literally on the screen. I mean, okay, I don't know if it was child abuse, like, you know, allegedly. It's my opinion of it. It wasn't, you know.
I mean, look, like here.
It was close to it.
Yeah.
But it basically, I just feel like we're going to look back in time and we're going to go, oh yeah, that was when it was the real wild, wild west. Yeah. And I feel like we deserve, and people deserve more ethical content moderation online, because it's going to come back and bite us. I
remember in that Jerry Springer documentary, the producers who made it were like, a lot of them who came on that show were like, I could never even watch it anymore. Yeah. You know, I couldn't never, and I would never make a show like that again. And I can't even watch some of the episodes that I literally wrote. Yeah. Because it's too like, it just takes me back to a place where like I was just humiliating people for ratings. Yeah.
Well, we're already hearing about those kinds of similar stories with YouTubers, right? Who are now posting content, changing the types of content that they used to make and creating new types of content. Yeah. Because they don't like the fact that the content that they used to make, which did get them clicks, you know, isn't necessarily viewed in the best light anymore. Yeah. Because ethically we're going, actually, no, we don't want to descend into the ultimate extreme. Yeah. You know, I think Mr. Beast is on the cusp of that. Mm-hmm. He's on the cusp of descending into something where very soon, the more extreme, like to top yourself, you just have to get more extreme. Yeah, and that's, of course. That where is the line?
Well, I think that's the thing. I think it's an evolution, isn't it? You know, it's an evolution. I think hopefully with more learning, people will look back and go, yeah, maybe we should just be a bit nicer.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, we'll see. We'll see.
We see.
Literally will.
We'll do another podcast in 50 years when we're old and be like, oh.
Yeah, exactly. What a time to be alive. And AI will be running the world.
Exactly. Yeah, it won't be us. It will be an AI version of us.
Exactly. Anyways, moving on. So now we have the Rotten Tomatoes game. If you do not know what the Rotten Tomatoes game, that is basically where I tell Rory a title of a film. He then tells me what he thinks the critics and audience score was. I tell him if he's right or wrong. We talk about the film and then we move on.
And I win every time.
He never wins. No, that's not true. Historically,
2 out of 8.
He's been getting a quarter right. So that is a marked improvement compared to what he was getting in the beginning when we first started this segment, which was zero. So, you know, I think he's slowly understanding how this game works.
Honestly, I've just been watching films back to back full time.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all I do.
I mean, it is kind of what you do. Anyways, this one is centered. The theme is mean media. So all the shows that were mean.
Okay, let's go.
Starting off with brilliant, giving away some you know, critical opinions here, but brilliant show, The Truman Show.
Oh, okay.
Brilliant film, sorry.
Really, really good film. I'm going to go with an audience score of 90 and a critic score of 100%.
Okay, not quite.
Oh, okay.
But you close. Critically, it got 94%, audience score 89.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Fine.
If you haven't watched The Truman Show, Go watch that.
Go watch the Truman Show.
Go watch that show.
It's a
If
very
that's
good show.
one thing you take out of this podcast and of all the episodes we've ever done, go watch the Truman
Genius
Show.
idea as well.
Yeah.
What an idea
Brilliant.
for a show.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Next one, The Hunger Games.
Okay. The Hunger Games. Audience score 78. Critically 75.
Okay, critically it got 84%.
Okay.
So you weren't that far.
Okay, pleasantly, yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
And audience score was 81%.
Yeah. I feel like the first one would have been the strongest.
The first one was the
critically,
strongest.
and
yeah.
by the audience, yeah.
I would argue The Hunger Games was a good.
The first one was really good, I thought.
was
It was
good,
really
yeah.
it was really
it's
well
why
put
it did
together.
so well.
Yeah. The second one didn't like as much.
No.
And the third the third and the fourth, because they split it into two, didn't they? Obviously.
Why wouldn't they?
Why wouldn't you? You know, one book, but two movies, obviously. Anyways, next one.
Next one, Mean Girls.
Oh,
This is a quintessential. This is what I'm talking about. A quintessential sort of. I mean, yes, hilarious, very funny.
yeah.
Like brilliant writing, Tina Fey. Definitely think it was great.
Oh, it's a great film.
But it wasn't a kids movie.
No.
But it was a load of kids who were watching that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Who were going, that's how we're supposed to be. It
Yeah.
was an adult film.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But I think, that's the problem.
Kids
That's-
idolize these characters, though,
Yeah.
and then they think, especially because it's set in like a high school environment, you go in thinking, oh, so that's how I need to be,
Yeah.
to not be perceived as this.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways,
But some really hilarious moments in that
Very.
film.
It's October
I'm
third.
going to go with 80% audience score, 83 critic.
oh, so close. 84% critic score.
That is so...
But audience, 66%.
Wow, so quite a lot lower.
I know.
Tina Fey is such a good comedic writer, so the writing in it is solid. But then, like, audience-wise, could it be like people were just like, this is just mean?
Well,
Or do you know what I mean? Like,
I think it was, maybe. It was just
would you
Regina
say-
George who was just giving it all the downgrades.
yeah, exactly. Everyone's in the burn book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last one, which is actually a recent one and not a narrative film as such, The Social Dilemma,
The Social Dilemma. Okay.
the documentary.
Yeah. Audience score 78%. Critically 87.
Okay, critically 84, audience 83. Oh. Not far off. Well, yeah, that basically sums
Right,
up.
so I've lost every single one this week, but I got close on a couple.
Did you get close?
I think I did.
Okay.
83 and 84, like,
Yeah, that's
not
not bad.
far.
Yeah, that's true.
Not far, and there was
Well
a couple
done.
in there.
Well done.
Thank you. I mean, on that note, thank you so much for watching.
Yes, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this episode, please do give us a like on the video if you're watching, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. Or if you're listening, please do leave us a review. It really does help other people find us so we can basically spread our thoughts all around the world.
Exactly.
Yay.
That's it. That's it. So that we can go viral
Yeah, in an ethical way.
in a nice way.
Exactly.
Okay? Be nice to each other, guys.
Yeah. Anyways, we put these out every Thursday, so do stay tuned for the next one. Thank you for being here as always, and see you next week, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.